Experimental psychologist Dr. Andrea Clements asks whether our best treatment for addictive disorders may prevent a cure on this week's episode of Bald, Blind, and Buddies.
Bald, Blind, and Buddies.
Let me see. How the hell are you, my blind friend?
I'm good. It's warm, but it's a nice Friday morning in the upper Midwest.
Did you have that heat wave, that incredible heat wave
Yes.
last week? I mean,
Yeah,
God. I don't know if it's possible to posthumously bestow the Nobel Peace Prize on someone, but whoever invented air conditioning should be given it, shouldn't they? I mean, think of how many fights, wars, car accidents, anger issues they've avoided by creating air conditioning.
The Free Press had this article last week. It was the greatest things about America, and I think it was Nellie Bowles said air conditioning was one of the greatest triumphs. Yeah. So
Well, the Babylon Bee, our favorite newspaper, yours and mine, had something that said the heat wave is so bad that the French are actually considering wearing deodorant. So,
yeah.
I have two teams left in the World Cup, by the way. Great Britain, obviously, because I lived over there, and anybody but France. And really, this is just in fun. I could care less. They're probably going to win the whole darn thing. The French winning anything is just not something I, root for, per se.
They should every now and then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Timmy, as you're a doctor, and our next guest is actually an experimental psychologist who deals in addiction, religiosity, and healthcare. Why don't you introduce sort of whom we're speaking to today, and I'll let you two nerd out, as it were.
All right. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Andrea Clements, Andi, and she's a professor in the Department of Psychology at East Tennessee State University. She has been working on studying religiosity, health, and trauma responsiveness, particularly focusing in on addiction. So she's investigating.
And that's your area of expertise, isn't it, Timmy?
I fellowshipped. Addiction psychiatry
at the VA, right? And before I forget, Dr. Clements, welcome, Dr. Clements.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You have a couple books. Do you want to tell us a little bit about
and
those?
And a podcast. We're capitalists. Plug it.
And a podcast.
Yeah, and I'll explain why we wanted you on.
Okay, sure. So a couple of years ago, I did the religiosity and health research and started out doing the trauma-informed care and addressing trauma and looking at people's neurobiological past and trying to convey that to the church. We were doing trainings, and we honestly figured out that churches don't know how to do trainings, but they know how to do a book study. So we put our training in a book and called it the Trauma-Informed Church. And it's a very good for anybody. It's like a seventh grader can read it. Very simple, but it's the science and the theology and applications for churches. And then that was about 3 years ago. And then this past January, finished one called Understanding Addiction for the Church. Very similar, the science, a little bit of the trauma part, but more the science of addiction and how that overlays with theology and so forth. And again, very accessible to anybody that wants to read it. And then ideas for way churches can get involved in supporting people needing recovery or in recovery.
Yeah, and so the reason, the main reason we invited you on is there was an article you had posted on Substack. I think it was through Heterodox Academy, and it was basically, my research is making me a heretic, right? Outside of the right, and so we love heretics on this show.
Excellent, I found my place.
Yeah. So tell us about what you're trying to research and what you're running into, and we'll talk about that.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm very interested in is finding alternatives to medication. Not to say medication is bad. Medication is a tool. It's a tool, saves lives, all that. Not saying anything about that, but to say, are there other things that we can do that might also be effective at helping people get sober, stay sober, and so forth. And so one of the things, go back to the kind of neurobiological thing, that I'm interested in is interpersonal connection and neurobiology, and our receptors being filled by opiates versus endogenous opioids, all this geeky stuff. Yes, we can geek out.
And you and Timmy, I'll stay on the sidelines on this one. Yeah.
But one of the things that we now know is that even the medications that we're using to methadone, buprenorphine, or even naltrexone that blocks it. It doesn't cause any high or anything. It just blocks the effects.
Mm-hmm.
All of those reduce our ability to connect with people and our tendency to connect with people. And so it's almost like the thing that we're using as the treatment is preventing the cure, if indeed connecting with others is the cure. And so I've been lobbying to try to do the science around, can we test this? Let's just test the alternatives, let the chips fall where they may. And that is like sacrilege. And
why is
oh
that?
my gosh,
why is that? That sounds totally innocuous and vanilla, and I'm the layperson here. Why is that sacrilege?
Yeah, maybe I can talk to the
please.
standard of care.
I'm not familiar. Yeah.
So in one of my previous gigs, I actually ran an addiction program at a VA hospital. And so we would do what was called Suboxone clinic, where people would come in and they were on medication called buprenorphine. And so the standard treatment for opioid addiction is usually an agonist. So a drug that goes in and kind of keeps you from going into withdrawal and tells your brain there's some opioid around. Methadone is called a full agonist. Buprenorphine is a partial. And then the other one is a blocker that just sort of blocks the door and doesn't let any opioids in. And so the standard treatment is put people on these medicines and then give them psychosocial therapy. And that's the pathway. So when you propose a new treatment, they say, well, why would we not offer this? Because this clearly works. And so I'll hand it off to you, Andi. What do you say to that?
Yeah. So the one thing I said, so if indeed it's if it's replacing that even desire to connect with other people, then you're turning off that support that you might get, or you're maybe thwarting the efforts or whatever, which is one of the reasons that we have gathered the church to try to do this, because like, who else is going to pursue you when you don't want to be pursued? We're supposed to, we got a rule book that says, go love them and pull them out of the ditch or whatever.
Yeah.
But if the other treatment that you're giving them is making that not be as effective, then it's kind of undermining it. The other thing is, so I'm in Northeast Tennessee, and we have a huge neonatal abstinence syndrome problem. That's when drug affected babies, and it can be opiates, but it can be other drugs too. But if you're just talking opioids, we have probably 10% of our kids are full blown NAS, probably 20% are drug exposed. And I would say,
I'm sorry, just for the layperson, NIS is what?
NAS, neonatal abstinence syndrome.
Abstinence. So like the baby is born, the baby's born dependent.
Yep.
Yeah, they're born dependent, and then oftentimes they have to be weaned off with morphine or something like that. Mm-hmm. But they also have long-term effects, and like behavioral effects and learning and sensory kinds of things and all things like that. But in our area, I can't speak to all of the other areas, but in our area, probably 90% of the kids that are born with that are on prescribed Suboxone. They're not like wild fentanyl and heroin. We don't even have heroin here. Our main drug of entry here is Suboxone. And so we're basically creating also children with lifelong issues by having them on medication. So this is what motivates me to look for an alternative. Mm-hmm. But then do the science around the alternatives. Like, let's see if it works. If it doesn't, let the chips fall with it. And that's what that article was about. It's like, just let us do the science to see, and I will live with the results. But
isn't that the purpose of medicine?
What
sort of seems like the essence of,
wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
If I may, Doctor, I'd like to embarrass Timmy real quickly and then ask you something. So I'll never forget this. We were sitting at a meeting in our dorm, 94, 95, and somebody said to Timmy, I think it might have been Father Carey, Timmy, and he said, why do you want to be a doctor? Because we were going around the room, or maybe it was Jeff Bocan, and you said, because I think I can help people, and I think that we're too addicted or too essentially dependent upon Western medicine, and I think that we need to have an all-hands-on-deck approach is essentially what he said. And if I'm understanding your premise correctly, Dr. Clements, it's that the basic idea of giving drugs, as effective as it has been, is also minimizing or neutralizing your desire to be social creatures, which human beings are inherently. Is that essentially the gist of what? Okay,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And this kind of goes back to that what happened to the bowling league idea, that we've lost connections as a society, And everybody has 1,000 friends on Facebook, but they have no real friends in life. And is that a fair summation?
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And we had a really good natural experiment that happened. I say good. I don't know that anybody says COVID is good, but as far as doing some science, you can just watch.
You might be the first in history to
right?
say that. Yeah.
You can just watch
history here, Timmy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can just watch. The one good thing that came out of it, you can watch the graph of overdose deaths, and it's like 2020 peaked in 2022, 23, and has come back down to a ridiculously high level still, but where it was at the beginning of COVID, and it's like you have the thing you had isolation, it's like, so what happens when you isolate people? They overdose and die, it's just like, so it even adds fuel to that. And there are many voices all the way up the food chain will say interpersonal connection is the thing. That's what we're lacking. And that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, then let's do this kind of research. Oh, but not that. It would be unethical to not insist that someone take medication. It's like, it's not even, we're offering you this as a choice. It's oh no, this is the standard of care. You can't undermine the standard of care.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just some history. The medication naltrexone is an opioid blocker, and the studies that we rely on to get it approved in the U.S. were actually done in Russia, because you couldn't compare naltrexone to a placebo in this country, because you would have to compare it to something like methadone. So this runs deep. Thinking about that connectedness angle, it reminds me of Vietnam veterans who had pretty serious heroin problems there. Mm-hmm. But when they came back to their community, to their lives, many more than you would have expected kicked the habit. Right. And so that sort of, at least anecdotally supports your contention.
Right.
Let me ask a question from a layperson's perspective, because I tend to believe interpersonal relationships are extraordinarily important in maintaining not only your, overall health, physical health, but your mental health, obviously. And is there an understanding in the addiction community, I'll ask the two of you, that a certain percentage of people, because my understanding, and this is rudimentary, is the power of these drugs is in pharmacology. I mean, it creates a physical, addiction that's almost impossible to break. Is there a percentage of people that are beyond repair when it comes to addiction therapy? Or is there sort of, to your point, Timmy, about people coming back from Vietnam, is there sort of, more people? You said more people than we would anticipate. Well, what did you anticipate is really what I'm asking.
Well, in that case, I think you would expect it to be about the rate of recovery of a quote unquote, heroin addict in the States.
And what is that? Is there sort of a mean that we sort of aspire that 17% can get addiction?
Oh man, that's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I actually don't know the I don't know offhand how many.
We should look that up.
Yeah, we should.
A lot of people relapse multiple times, politically correctly return to use. Sorry.
We believe in political incorrectness. I'm the classic.
Okay, good.
I believe in swear words. Go ahead. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. You're in good steed here. Yeah.
Good. So a lot of people do relapse multiple times. Most people, but I don't know for sure if that's 51% or 80%, eventually stop. Now, some of them die, but that's how they stop. But some of them just get tired of it and eventually get sick and tired of being sick and tired and find their path to recovery. But the Vietnam thing is interesting, because what we use right now is almost saying, this is so impossible and this is so hard. We can't, and that's one of the problems with the chronic relapsing brain disease that is like diabetes, and you need to be on this medication forever. I'm quoting, not saying it myself, is that you basically tell people they can't get better. Mm-hmm. And that was not happening when the Vietnam vets came back. It was like, buck up and get back to life. And they did. But right now, the expectation is almost dampened by the way we treat it. And so if the person is hearing this is forever, and your physician is saying this is forever, and the physician may think it because that's what the orders say, it's like, where is the hope in that?
So you're literally telling patients, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to be an addict the rest of your life and you have to deal with it appropriately. Is that what I'm hearing? Timmy, yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead. This is your
All right.
field, and I'll tell you if this is what I'm hearing from the street.
Yeah. So what I would pitch I would usually pitch both, and I had these in different parts of my brain until recently in looking at your stuff. I would pitch blockers like naltrexone, and I'd say you could go through withdrawal once and you're done and move on and get into recovery. Or we can have you on a medication and it's going to help with craving, and you have to work on changing your behaviors. And we'll keep, as long as I describe addiction like a funnel where everything in your life gets caught up in the top, and the only thing that makes it through is what supports the addiction. You let go of your job, you let go of your family, you let go of all that stuff, and the treatment opens your life up. And so as long as that's happening, we'll keep you on the medicine. If you want to come off, we'll help you off. But we want to make sure your life is opening up. That's sort of how I would pitch it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that sounds great. The thing that misses, I think, is the spiritual aspect of it.
Nice. She's correcting Timmy. This is awesome. Keep at it, Dr. Clements. This is what brings me just pure joy and happiness. Yeah.
Well, the reason I was sleeping in the airport last night is because I was coming back from this meeting at HHS where they're saying we've got to reengage the faith community in this battle. So there you go.
I'm the liberal on this, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Wonderful. But the thing is, and this is when we do presentations on this, a lot of times we have a picture of a glass with water pouring in it and it's overflowing, and it's just like with any habit that we've got, you can stop the thing, but if you don't fill it with something else, the thing is the thing that's going to come back quickest, and so it's like if it's like I usually pick up a cigarette when I have a cup of coffee, then you stop the cigarette and it's like something needs to be between my fingers or something. Yes. Yeah. And so that's where we call it having somebody, it's almost like peer support, but it doesn't have to be an addiction peer. It just has to be somebody or somebody's hopefully in your life that are helping you figure out how to do life without those substances, because you don't know how. You've been doing life with them. You don't know how to do life without them, but other people can come alongside you and help you to figure that out. And if you don't have, and the psychosocial stuff is great, having therapy or whatever, but that's like maybe a paid friend an hour a week. And we're talking 24/7 is really helpful when you first come off of something. And so we also recommend, if you end up looking at the cover of our Understanding, I wrote it, but it's us, Understanding Addiction book, it's a hand pulling a hand up, but there are a whole bunch of hands around the pulling hand, because it takes a whole bunch of people to support some, because it's hard work. And so having that, bringing somebody into a community that is supportive and wraps around them. And that's not even talking the God part, that whole filling up thing. There's also
that's
like relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to ask it first? Or do you want me to answer it before you ask it?
Yeah. Well, it's actually a two-parter. So I feel like I have to explain to you, because you don't know me as well as Timmy, my feelings about religiosity. I tend to be very spiritual. I think it's extraordinarily arrogant to assume that we're the end of it, and when we die, that's it. You can go back to philosophical principles about the first mover and what have you. I believe there is something beyond this life, period, full stop. Where I have a problem is with the organization of religion. And one of the examples I use, my mother-in-law, I love her to death, and she does listen to the podcast. But she said one time to me, I think you don't go to church anymore because you're lazy. And my wife went, oh God, here it goes. So I started in right away, and I said, well, I have two daughters. I noticed they had a conclave to pick the next pope. No women were in that room. I have a problem with that. That being said, I understand the importance of spirituality. So my first part of the question is, how do you see religiosity playing a part? Is it simply the community aspect of it, or is it spiritual? And secondarily, I'm an addict. I haven't officially embraced that position yet, but I have a long line of alcoholics in my family, Dr. Clements. And if I put my mind to it, I've said this multiple times, in 3 weeks I could be an alcoholic. My uncle, my grandfather, and so forth. Are people born that way, that are more inclined to it? So first part's about religion. How do you see religion helping? And secondarily, do you think addicts, because my one friend said addiction's the only thing they say it's genetic, but if you don't choose to drink, you don't become an addict. You know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering how you square that circle, as it were.
Yeah, those are great questions. And I like the order of them because the answer to the first one is going to set up the answer to the second one.
Perfect.
You had no idea, did you?
No. And
so,
I think spirituality is an underutilized aspect of healing. I think going out for a walk is an underutilized aspect of healing. I think the answer for everything is give them a pill and send them home. And I have a problem with that. So.
And as someone who measures, I teach measurement, and so it's like, well, what is your operational definition of religion and of spirituality, and which is the umbrella and which is the within? So we're not even going to go there because that would be 3 more podcasts. So just know that is roiling around in my mind as we're talking.
Okay.
One, I'm going to say I am a sold out Jesus following Christian, which probably makes your skin crawl. I am sorry. I love you anyway.
No, organized religion makes me. I think that's fine. Organized religion I find to be sort of disappointing.
Yeah, I'm pretty organized too, but that's okay. But what the thing that so we run into this, and this is maybe important for you to know if you don't know it. Even within Christian circles, there are these layers of Bible only. Don't bring scientific hoo-ha in there, and just scripture's enough. And so there are people that think I am from the devil because I look at neurobiology and I look at psychology and I look at all of these other things. And so that's one end of the spectrum. And I have seen how that has been misused, which I could talk a little bit about. And then there's, what they would call integrationists, where we take in the scientific and we take in the spiritual and all of that. And so we, even as we've done trainings in churches, we have found, we didn't even realize what a barrier that was being in some churches. They were seeing I've been told that that's from the devil. And so we almost have to do disclaimers up front to say that the way we see this is, if indeed, and just bear with me, if indeed you believe that the creator of the universe is also the author of, I'm going to say Christian scripture, which is what I believe, and he created bodies, and he created our neural system, and he created our digestion, and he all of that it all goes hand in hand, and it all overlays. And so to leave out one doesn't make sense because it's all of it, And so what I think we're seeing is that, you go back to, I don't know how much you know about the Bible. You go back to, well, why couldn't they eat this thing? Or why were they told to marry and have children and whatever? And don't do this and don't mistreat this person and respect this person and all of those things. And the more we do the science, the psychological science, the neurobiological science, we see the things that stress does to your immune system, and that prenatally, I used to do prenatal research on stress and pregnancy and later attention deficit disorder, that our brains are built around, our whole bodies are built around experiences we have and so forth, which is why the trauma stuff is so important. But also, if you look at these guidances that we had from him who created us, it works really well. And when you go off the rails, things mess up, and that's broken world kind of thing, And so it all kind of dovetails. And so I'll say that's where I'm coming from. And that's why I think it's so important to embrace the biblical part of it. Now, is it like you've got to get saved or you won't get clean? No, not at all. I mean, it's like some people will, some people won't. That's above my pay grade. It's like, I will love you the same whether you do or don't. I would love that for you, but whatever, But then to get to your other question, are people born that way? So like I say, I did prenatal research. Like surveys. I didn't actually study the babies, but I then ended up following up with somebody who did. But even that, if you're stressed during pregnancy, your baby comes out looking like a particular thing, but it was actually environmental, not genetic. If that makes sense, because it was environment, it just was really early environment. So it looks genetic, and so what is what? I don't know that we have the wherewithal, like scientifically, you're not going to randomly assign we're going to stress this mom. We've done it with rats, but we're going to randomly stress this mom and not this mom and see how the baby turns out. Right. Or if, and then we'll give them some alcohol and see what happens. We just don't do that because it's not ethical, but we have done that with animals. And indeed we see that happen, and so it's real hard to tease out the what's causing what. Yeah. The causal part is hard. And I kind of eventually, the reason I gave up doing that particular research was, it's like we see these things going on early on, and we see later on this is how it goes. And when we change that thing before, it works out better. I don't have to know how it happens. I don't have to know the mechanism. And it's like you take the interpersonal connection thing with addiction. You look at the AA model, and we know mutual support groups are monstrously effective at keeping people in recovery, just like ridiculously. And it is connection, and it's like, is that the thing? And that's what we've got right now, but we don't have to know, oh, it's because the connection is doing this and it's changing this in their brain and then this and whatever, it's effective. And so let's just connect a lot of people and see if we can get a handle on this. But then you find, but what if your medication is undermining the connection and all that? So that's what brought me to this point of, it really was, I kept trying to get an article, and I've probably got 5 different iterations from different directions. Just please let me publish the article questioning it. And no one would.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. I think AA is, in some ways, there's so much wisdom there. And, inspired is a strong word, but it is amazing how it taps into what, we've come to learn about cognition, interpersonal relationships, like this notion that one of the first steps is realizing this problem is bigger than you. Right. And then turning it over to a higher power. And that's so powerful for people, because with an addiction, it's all about often trying to assert control. And I used to, when I talk to veterans, I'd say it's like realizing you're pinned down in a foxhole and you need some support, right? You're still fighting the battle, but it's bigger than you. And I think AA has a lot of truth to that. And what's fascinating is they had this giant study. It was called Project Match. And one of the control conditions was, we're going to try to send people to AA. And it turned out it worked as well as all the fancy cognitive behavioral therapy and all the other things they were trying to test, and just getting people in the door to that community. I mean, there's evidence this stuff works at some level. Yep. Yeah. It's fascinating.
Dr. Clements, what do you think of the notion, though, that I tend to believe, and I understand what you're saying, it's irrelevant to your scholarship or to addiction therapy or whatever gets us to that inroads. And this is essentially where I come at a lot of problems, where I become frustrated with the political process, because if Trump proposes it, the Democrats by definition, oppose it.
Right.
And vice versa. And it's just, he came up with a great idea. Well, we can't give him credit, so we're just going to go the other way. Particularly on something as personal as this, I'm an all hands on deck approach. What do you think of the notion? My buddy has always said this, and I'm curious how I should respond, that it may be genetic, but I don't understand how it's genetic. If you choose not to engage in the behavior, you don't have a problem. Meaning you're not born, like if the way Timmy was born genetically to be blind, I was born genetically that I'm bald, and that's how the name of the podcast arrives.
Right. If
you don't drink, if you don't engage in drugs, you don't become an addict. How do I respond to that? You understand what I'm saying? That's always bothered me. It sits very uneasy in my craw, and I'm trying to figure out how I should answer that.
Yeah, I do. And it is true. It is true. If you don't drink, then you will not become dependent on alcohol, or if you don't use the substance. And I have abuse in my family history as well. And I tell people I'm a one and done. That way I don't have to, I don't have to deal with, if I do one and done, then I'm not falling off the cliff, but I respect the fact that could be there, but that takes some self-control and will and wisdom and grace of God, whatever. But there's so many things, and if you look at it just secularly or biblically, we make decisions all the time, and we control things in our behavior, and we don't. And this it gets to a really deep theological question I don't know that we're ready for, but kind of, is God controlling it, or are we?
This is
yes.
how, when I woke up this morning, I thought I should have a deep biblical discussion on a Friday afternoon.
Right,
so
right.
Fire away.
and the whole faith community argues about that, but it's like the take I take on it is, I believe that God is running the universe, but from my perspective, I have responsibilities, and so I have to act like I am. And so which is it, and how much, and what percent? I have no idea.
Same way, Dr. Clements, which is, I happen to believe God is, but you have free will. Meaning,
right?
Bad things happen. Why? There's that age-old question, and we don't have to get into this. Why does God let bad things happen, and so forth and so on? God is. You have free will. That's how I square that. So
I look at it as, He's running the universe. He knows what He's doing. I do not. I trust that this all plays into the big picture. I'm glad I'm not. You wouldn't want me to. But I know that I may or may not ever know how these things worked together, but I trust that they do. And that is a very freeing thing if you can capture that. Some people don't feel that way, and I wish they could, but they don't. But because I think it is a much more peaceful place to be. But so I think you do what, as far as the genetic piece, you do what you can with what you do. Now, one of the places that I think the church errs, sorry, church, I'm going to out you.
No, please. Which church are we talking about? Because this is my favorite part of this discussion.
Well, particularly those that are like, scripture's enough, you only need scripture. It's like, it says here, if you'll just submit, or if you'll just surrender, whatever. And it's like, that puts it back on the person. It's like, well, it's your fault because you're not working hard enough, you're not praying hard enough, you're not submitting hard enough, you're not whatever. And if you believe God is running the universe, but yet you're saying your problems are all on you, how do you square that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think understanding that it's both, but understanding that you need that help. But we also, just as we're biblically called to behave this way and follow this way and so forth, we're also supposed to spur each other to good works, and we're also supposed to break bread with each other and love each other and care for each other and help the weaker and whatever. And so it's like, you can't just pick one piece, go act better, and then you'll be sober. You got to take if you're taking any of it, you got to take the whole thing. And there are a whole lot of pieces, and it's on all of us, to do that.
Now, this may be completely inappropriate. In fact, it probably is. But have you ever heard Have you ever heard the Benjamin Franklin line that alcohol, particularly beer, is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy? And I'm talking to two experts in addiction, so yeah.
I mean, Paul told Timothy, have a little wine for your stomach. It's like it's not the problem.
Right. I mean, there's the whole wedding feast at Cana story, right?
Absolutely.
He's contributing
Absolutely.
to intoxication. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how would you propose studying this mechanism, or this? Would you be doing a prevention?
The
prevention strategy or treatment? Yeah.
I would. I mean, if I had.
You have carte blanche. You can set up the system any which way you want.
The Gates Foundation is backing you.
There you I would, and they're, okay, I'll pretend all this would work. I would love to take people that are seeking treatment and randomly assign them, but you have to let people, opt in. It's like, no, I'd rather have medication. No, I'd rather have this, but that some people, you're offered these two paths and you're given all the pros and cons of each. And some of you are going to go to it's medication and maintenance medication, and you're assuming that it's going to be forever. You've got some, which I hate to randomly assign anybody to that because I don't think it's a good thing. But anyway, so some of them, here it is. As you are willing, we'll try to taper you and see if you can get off of it, or very low dose. Some of you, we're going to randomly assign you to AA and support, like traditional support community. Some of you, and it could be secular, whatever, garden club or Lions Club. And then some of you, it's going to be intensive connection within a church community. Not requiring you to be saved, but just to be willing to be cared for by this group of people who, and just see how those 4 play out. I'll say
Let
that
the best man win, huh?
Absolutely. And so
Yeah.
the kickers are, you've got. Well, let's take the neonatal abstinence syndrome. So the OB guidelines right now say maintain on the dose they're on, don't taper.
Yep.
All right. So I have a great rogue friend here.
Actually, they say maintain, and you may need to increase as blood volume increases during pregnancy.
Sorry. Just like my eyes rolled. I know it's not video, but yeah. So we got that, and there may be some people other places, but there's a guy that was at the University of Tennessee named Craig Towers, and then Martin Olson at ETSU. Both have done tapering studies with pregnant women, and if they taper, the babies do not have NAS, and the women will come in asking to be tapered. It's like, I want what's best for my baby. I know this is risky. I want to be tapered. And if they want to stay on it full blast, they stay on the full dose. But if they want to taper, he'll taper them. But it goes against ACOG guidelines. And so he's done this study over the last several years, and finally got it published. Speaking of gatekeeping, finally got it published in the Southern Medical Journal. But he was supposed to present at ACOG a couple of years ago, and it was approved, whatever. 2 or 3 days before ACOG, they said, we're pulling your talk. We're not going to let you present it because it goes against the guidelines. Now, this is a scientific study that makes them question their guidelines. And instead of letting him present alternative views of that thing, they just quashed it,
Yeah.
And so
and ACOG, for our listeners, is the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Is that right?
Yeah.
Didn't we have a similar experience with peanuts, and now they're recommending that children be exposed to peanuts earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, something as simple as this. I'm not comparing peanuts to heroin addiction. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to illustrate, and what I think has become abundantly clear from talking to you two, is that the scientific accepted norm is subject to change. Why are we not embracing that?
Exactly.
Right. And that article that you saw was the gatekeeping to funnel things in a particular direction. It's like who are the powerful players that and part of it, it's like, is it just, I totally believe that there are physicians and even scientists, this is the best thing and I want what's best. Well, and I think people in clinics, I think they really do want good for the people. But I also look at kind of the nefarious side, and I'll tell you, and I mentioned a while ago that buprenorphine is our entry drug here. We are a hub in the middle of Appalachia, and the same model that was used with OxyContin for the original pill mill thing, that's been done with buprenorphine here. And a few years ago, it was before COVID, probably 2017, 2018, in the country, of the top 10 prescribers of buprenorphine, 3 of them were in my city limits. I mean, that's where I live. And so diversion and we don't have people that start on heroin or start on even Lortab. They start on the treatment medications. And so that's some of what's fueled my passion to question, is it all good? And, and nothing's all good. There's cost benefit to everything. We're going to see the same thing with GLP-1s. We're going to see, we see the same thing with Coke Zero. Sorry.
No, don't go after Coke. Listen, I'll let you talk about religion all day long, but do not talk negatively about Coke
I won't
Zero.
touch your soft drink.
Yeah.
And like I say,
that's worth starting a war.
And it's like I say, if you get off heroin, I will let you smoke till you die. It's like everybody needs their something. I'm not gonna. If that's your biggest vice, go with it.
Didn't you say your son is addicted to Coke Zero?
No, Diet Coke. He is Diet Coke.
Oh, he's on the Diet Coke side. All right,
yes. Particularly McDonald's Diet Coke. He says it's.
Oh, my dad swears by it. Yeah, my dad
Yep.
swears by the McDonald's Diet Coke. He goes every single day for his medium Diet Coke.
See if you can get them to fund you. Product placement.
So, Dr. Clements, my final question that I want to put to me on the spot. I married a nurse practitioner who for 17 years was in neonatology, so I have a soft spot in my heart for everything you're talking about. That's number one. Number two is, until I met my wife, I had always felt that doctors were just sort of the voice of God. And I understand, as somebody who taught constitutional law, I understand how that's powerful. You get a doctor on the stand, you think everything they're saying is completely and totally accurate. And what I've come to find out, and Timmy sort of imbued this knowledge into me over the years as well, is, you get 9 or 10 doctors in a room, you're going to get 12 or 13 different opinions. And so I've come to respect that. And what really sort of, I wouldn't say sort of burst the balloon, but didn't help the cause was finding out all of these things that happened during COVID that were suppressed and other things that were sort of pushed to the side. And it sounds to me that we're just going down that exact same path as it relates to addiction, if I'm hearing you correctly. Mm-hmm. My question is, because Timmy asked you, you're now director of the NIH or the National Institutes of Health or whatever it may be. Timmy, from what Dr. Clements said, is there anything that you would deviate from what she said? She talked about AA, and we'll do intensive this, and we'll do in whatever of the 4 produces the best results. That's what we'll stick with. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, I'm going to fold into what before I've been thinking about this most recently. I wonder about an arm where people, because I classify in my brain, and this may not be accurate, naltrexone different than the agonist. And so I would wonder about an arm where people were withdrawn, placed on naltrexone injectable, and given a few months to establish sober patterns, and then engaging in, say, the AA or whatever with sort of a stabilizing lead-in. That's the only tweak that I think could be it might make it more sellable.
Yeah, and I like that because that gives you time. If you have your people that wrap around you and help you learn to do life without that makes great sense. That makes great sense.
I mean, I've seen plenty of people in treatment, both on naltrexone and otherwise. Like, I'm recalling a grandfather who was a skilled tradesman who ran a crew and dearly loved his grandkids and was clearly socially engaged and on opioid maintenance. So it's a degrees and not a binary.
Yes.
I think, and so I want to figure out how to convey and capture that,
Right. And I also want to say, if you don't have that support community, whatever, absolutely the medication is going to, you're much less likely to overdose, die, lose your job even. And so I think it's the way my son likes to say it. He's the executive director of our nonprofit, Uplift Appalachia. He does the podcast, Intrinsically Motivated. Product placement.
We're capitalists here. We may not see eye to eye politically, but you can plug your podcast.
He says the kind of the public health model says we kept you alive, yay, we win. And it's like, what if kept you alive as the starting point instead of the goal? Yeah. And then we start there and then help you to live beyond that. And that seems like a great working relationship. Whatever we can do to get you stable, alive, willing to go to the next thing or whatever. Now I'll tell you that when I was doing my pie in the sky study a while ago, it's like, let's have this huge bunch of people from the faith community ready to welcome you with open arms and walk with you. And I would love to say that we have pitched this and they've come, crashing in the doors. That has not happened. I mean, that has not happened. That is what we do all the time, but we get a lot of love what you're doing, but step out of the pew, out of your comfort zone and begin doing this hard work is another layer of challenge, shall we say.
I think too, like that was one of the brilliant things about AA, right? It was addicts helping addicts, like people further along the journey, pulling them in. And they have this natural desire to pass it on, as part of the 12 steps. Right. And so I think like that celebrate recovery and some of those also tap into that. So I think having, and people are so reluctant to talk about recovery. People will be like, yeah, I had breast cancer, blah, blah, blah. But people are not saying, I had a meth problem, and I think that like, that's also a barrier too. But I think having people in recovery also in the faith community certainly can help.
Yeah. And they're there, but can you talk about it? And that's one of the things we talk about is like, if you're not open enough within your own faith community for people to know what you've been through, they don't know that you can support them. And it's like, you got to go all squeaky clean. And that's some of the one of the reasons that we really try to get churches to do like the trauma-informed church, something along those lines first, is that really gets you to the point of seeing our tagline in that, you can quote me on this: people do things for reasons. That is, we use an iceberg, and it's like what you see on top is the behavior. It might be addiction. It might be, you're a scientist or you're whatever. But the bottom of that iceberg is what's fueling all the stuff you see on the top. And it is from the experiences you've had, the things you've been through, your genetics, your whatever. And we don't know what's in people's icebergs. And so it's like almost giving the benefit of the doubt while we explore and be curious with somebody, rather than judgmental. So that just go clean up the top of your iceberg is not helpful.
Yeah. I must say people do things for reasons at least once a week at work. Like it's part of how I approach things.
It is. And it's like just understanding that. And even yourself, it's like, I wonder why I did that. Oh, I see where that came from. It's just.
Well, Timmy's base level is to be a smartass. So that's why he does pretty much everything he does.
Okay.
His entire enjoyment of life
genetically, or was this like prenatal?
Both. If you know him, he's sort of like Larry David. He's the blind Larry David. He tries to make everyone uncomfortable, and that's his raison d'etre. That's why he got up in there.
So my superpower is I can usually help people feel more comfortable or less comfortable, and I just get to pick.
True. Yeah, you do. So, well, Dr. Clements, recognizing you are on an overnight flight, you got trapped in the airport.
John, can I throw out one more question?
Of course.
Yeah, and I do think there's one arena we left out, and that is the economics of the whole thing.
Well, yeah, why don't you go there?
Well, I think that is a lot of what's driving all of it. Is look at the economic chain of everything, and one of the things that really came to me, I can't even remember where I saw it now. But it was somebody talking to someone in a small town in Kentucky. I do not remember which small town in Kentucky, but Kentucky is like, recovery is one of their biggest industries. And somebody asked the guy standing in the middle of this little small town, he said, "Don't you want to solve this problem?" And he said, "Look around you. The town would be gone. Everything here is that industry, And I thought that was very candid. but if you look at, not just, yes, physicians, yes, big pharma, but you also look at treatment centers, you look at lab testing, you look at the prison system, you look at there's so many people that, and this is the thing that frustrates me, that are earning their living. But if you go all the way to the end of the food chain, you have a person who is immobilized by addiction and they are being exploited for everyone else's gain. That's the thing that drives me, because that's the thing that bugs me.
I live in Pennsylvania, Dr. Clements, and we had a scandal at Penn State a decade, 15 years ago. And I'm not saying it's okay. I can understand how it happened, though, because there was a sexual predator there. Everybody kept their mouth shut because there were so many lives dependent upon Penn State football being successful. And it's just a small little example of follow the economics. Timmy has said this as well about sort of why COVID and why certain vaccines were approved and certain information was suppressed and things of that nature.
Or homelessness out west. You look at San Francisco, there's a huge homeless industry trying to help, but clearly the problem isn't getting better from the interventions they're using. So it happens in a lot of places.
Right.
So I'm going to put a bug in your ear from a pharmacology point of view. You ready? You ready for this?
Okay.
So in the chronic pain realm, there's this growing evidence of using very low dose naltrexone to sort of reset opioid receptor tone. I'm wondering if there'd be a pharmacological way to jump into restarting the opioid receptivity with low dose naltrexone in a lead-in in one of these future Gates-funded trials. Have you ever thought about that or looked into it?
I have not, but I do know that buprenorphine now is used for pain often. Yeah. The other thing, though, is so hear the jaded me and then hear the objective me. The jaded me is every time a market dries up, pharma tends to go find a new market.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, perhaps, yes. But so I don't know. Again, if we could do the actual real science, try things against things and figure it out, I would love to explore whatever, because I mean, chronic pain is a huge thing, but then also we know that the more you activate those receptors, the more, when you stop whatever, the more pain you feel, maybe more than you felt before, that I think is caused by the treatment more than the actual pain. So it's like, what is what? You know, because our bodies, again, our iceberg, our experiences, we are modified by our experiences. I was talking to somebody the other day at my church, and she said, "Oh, I only do homeopathic. You do real medicine. I just do homeopathic treatments or whatever." And I said, "But those still change your body. Your body's going to adjust to those." "Oh no, but they're homeopathic." It's like, no, whatever you're doing, if it's coffee, whatever it is, whatever you're doing is going, your body's, it's a wonderful thing, and it modifies itself and so forth. And so you have to look at all of these things playing together. And so perhaps, and I think we are so programmed as Americans, look for the magic bullet, look for the magic bullet, look for the magic bullet. And things just aren't that easy. Stuff's hard.
Dr. Clements, before you give us your whack job or your hero, have you ever seen one of the better movies ever made, Untouchables? Sean Connery won an Oscar.
Gosh, years ago, but not enough to even remember what it was about.
No, so this is germane to this conversation, because at the end of the movie, he says, "Mr. Ness, you put Al Capone away." He says, "Have you heard that Congress is on the verge of repealing the Volstead Act, which was, outlawed alcohol?" He says, "What will you do then?" And he says, "I think I'm going to go home and have a drink." And after this conversation, I think that's where I'm going to go. So, it's been an absolute delight.
Remember your heritage. And
No, I know it. And
only
that's the
one.
Thing. Yeah, that's it's funny you say that, because believe me, I do. And, I grew up in a family where, God didn't raise a quitter, and Alcoholics Anonymous is for quitters, that kind of, just joking, obviously. So that's not appropriate, but you understand what I'm saying, and I know it. Yeah, so I'm keen.
I too love Babylon Bee, so I can get behind the inappropriate and everything.
There you go.
We traditionally, have a guest can offer a hero or a whack job of the week to point to something working well or something that needs some work. Is there any? It doesn't have to be a particular person. Could be an industry. What that you want to call out, either good or bad.
I always suggest J.D. Vance is my default, so please feel free to use he.
And mine's the University of Wisconsin. So.
I think I would love to know why that. So I was going that.
That's another episode.
Yeah, that's another episode.
I would say Auburn, because I am a diehard Alabama fan, but because I have lots of degrees from there. But gosh, I don't know. Had I had a day to think about it, I would want to go whack job, but I am not that creative, having no sleep. So I'm going to go with somebody.
There's always the airlines.
Yes, that's true. That is true. That was actually acts of God, though. It stormed both places where I was coming from and going to, so it wasn't even the airline's fault. But I'm going to go with somebody who changed my life with his writings, and now he's a friend. I'm going to shout out John Swinton at the University of Aberdeen. And just, if you ever want to read a great book, read Raging with Compassion. Because it set a course for things that I do research wise and life wise and interpersonal wise, and all that. And he's a big connection guy, but anyway, yeah. But cool. I also want to say at the beginning of this, when you said you still got 2 teams in here, so I do a lot of work in Scotland, and I don't know if you followed the Tartan Army while they were in Boston and all, but when you said Great Britain is still in it, they would take.
No, I said the UK.
But
I didn't say England.
It's
right.
England that's still in it. It's England.
I know. You're right. And as somebody who's Irish,
which means Scotland lost. But
yeah, that's true. No, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pulling for England now that the rest of them have gone. So.
And having lived there.
No, I don't want France to win either. No, can't have that.
Yeah. I think we can all agree, though, that if you ever talk to a Welsh person, you have no idea what they're saying. I've never understood the Welsh. It's hilarious.
Yeah, go to Glasgow. It's similar.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Clements, thank you. Honestly, it's been absolutely fascinating hearing you two geek out. And, if nothing else, it gives a reminder that, look, human beings are flawed creatures. It doesn't mean that we have the answer to everything. And let's try some new solutions and see if it works. So I think that's a great message to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Timmy, that was right in your wheelhouse. I found that fascinating. And you know what was interesting is I thought that she brought an element of theology and religiosity without being preachy, if that's the right word.
Yeah,
if that
totally.
Makes sense. And I think that spirituality has a significant place in healing, whether it be from addiction or otherwise. As you know, Timmy, my frustration is not with spirituality, it's with organized religion. So, but again, if organized religion can be the foot soldiers to help people beat addiction, so be it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I think this just demonstrates how it is so easy to lock into your paradigms and,
Right, give them a pill and send them home.
Yeah.
Or this is the approved treatment. I mean, when you were telling me about, dealing with children or youths that have questions about their identity and transgender and so forth, it seemed to me this is an opportunity for exploration and not sort of this is what we do and you better like it. So
yeah, and frankly, her paper is just, hey, let's think about it, right? And what's wrong with thinking about it? Like, that's why we're here. That's why we had her on, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, Timmy, anything you want to add from your perspective as a medical physician who dealt with this at the VA?
No, like I say, I think it was very refreshing to have her on. I'm glad we did.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear your notes about it because I'm sure off air you'll let me know that there's other answers than simply do this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, Timmy, have a wonderful weekend. And this is John Boland. I'm signing off. I'm going to have a drink after that talk, Timmy. Not now, maybe later tonight. And John Boland saying, everybody have a wonderful weekend. And hey, misbehave, drive fast, take chances.
And this is Tim saying, if everybody likes what you're doing, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Let's keep talking.